Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. Police in West Yorkshire say one of three sisters who've gone missing from Bradford with their 9 children has made contact and that the family may well be in Syria. The BBC has seen travel documents which show that the group tried and failed to leave the UK back in March because they were held up by security checks at the airport. But they were able to rebook their flights and make the journey to Saudi Arabia last month. From Bradford, Ed Thomas sent this report. A BBC investigation has found that children and teenagers are being recruited online by new groups of far-right extremists trying to encourage hatred of Muslims. A leading expert on extremism has warned that a new generation is being radicalised by the right, with reports of children as young as 9 carrying out hate crimes. Here's our Wales correspondent, Hal Griffith. It was a battle that would change the course of Europe's history. Robert Hall is on the battlefields of Waterloo in Belgium. Robert. Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. Eurozone leaders are arriving in Brussels tonight for emergency talks to try to resolve the Greek debt crisis and prevent Greece from crashing out of the euro. New proposals submitted by Greece have been described as a good basis for a deal, but time is running out and it's unlikely any final agreement will be made tonight. In a moment, the view from Athens, but first this report on the latest diplomatic manoeuvrings from our Europe correspondent Damian Grammaticus in Brussels. New taxes on Greek businesses and the wealthy are just some of the proposals that the Greek government hopes will help to balance its books. Our economics editor Robert Peston is in Athens and has been talking to Greece's economy minister about their attempts to head off the debt crisis. They're called legal highs, synthetically made drugs that can be bought over the counter and online. But despite being legal, they've been linked to a number of deaths in recent years. The government is now set to ban them, like Ireland did 5 years ago, with the issue being debated in the House of Lords tomorrow. But as our home editor, Mark Easton, has discovered, efforts to stamp out some of these potentially lethal products have been thwarted because of problems with the legislation. Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. Police in Tunisia say they have arrested a significant number of people after Friday's beach massacre. 38 people were killed, most of them British tourists. This morning, the Home Secretary, Theresa May, laid flowers on the beach where the gunman opened fire and called the murders a despicable act of cruelty. On Friday, exactly a week after the attacks, a minute's silence will be held across the UK in memory of all those who died. Our correspondent, Orla Guerin, reports from Sousse. Well, many of those caught up in Friday's attacks have already arrived back home. Angela Evans from King's Lynn was on the beach. She's been describing what happened and how she survived. You may find some of her interview upsetting. Chief Political Editor James Landell is in Downing Street. And what more can the government actually do to prevent such attacks? Around 30 people from the UK are thought to have died. 18 British victims have now been formally identified. Among them, 24-year-old Carly Lovett from Lincolnshire, a beauty blogger and photographer who'd only recently got engaged. One family lost 3 generations. Adrian Evans, his father Patrick and his nephew Joel Richards were dedicated Walsall football supporters. This morning, fellow Saddlers fans and friends paid tribute outside the ground. Sue Davey was on holiday with her partner Scott Chalkey. They were both killed. This afternoon, Sue's son, Connor Fulford, spoke to our correspondent Sian Lloyd. This was the scene outside Lancashire County Council today after campaigners learnt that an application to start fracking for shale gas had been rejected. The energy firm behind it, Quadrilla, said it was surprised and disappointed by the decision. The application for a site in Little Plumpton near Blackpool was rejected on the grounds of noise and the impact on the landscape. Our correspondent Ed Thomas is there for us now. Ed. Now, should shops be allowed to open for longer on Sundays? The government thinks they should, and it's about to unveil new proposals for England and Wales to allow that to happen. Current laws allow smaller shops to open all day, but large stores can only open their doors for a maximum of 6 hours. In his budget tomorrow, the Chancellor will give elected mayors and councils powers to decide what's right for their area. Our correspondent John Kay has been gauging reaction in Bristol, and he joins us now. John. Barclays Bank has fired its chief executive, Anthony Jenkins, after less than 3 years in charge. It's understood that the board thought the pace of cost-cutting was too slow and that the bank's investment arm wasn't performing well enough. Mr. Jenkins is being replaced temporarily by the bank's new chairman. Here's our business editor, Kamal Ahmed.